Good morning. I am Dr. Bose. I am a practicing respiratory critical care and sleep physician. I practice in southern part of Delhi, India. I am the founder of SANS Foundation, a respiratory foundation working on respiratory advocacy, treatment, diagnosis, research and training. We also started a forum called Saksham, where we do a capacity building in health sector by training underprivileged, unemployed youths, because health sector is a huge area where we need different people at the different levels. I'm attached to two major institutes, National Heart Institute, a state-of-art cardiorespiratory institute, and a Max Hospital, which is a multi-speciality apex hospital or Max group of hospitals. I'm associated with FICCI as a part of the disaster management group, and also I do a lot of CSR activities for the Energy Resource Institute, India, and as also a part of their ethical committee. So dear friends, this is a very important interaction when it comes to a good treatment approach, or when we would talk about a good doctor-patient relationship. Every doctors, I think, should try his best to perform at his optimum time so that the patient have the confidence. He should follow with his patients, with the instructions, what we call the adherence to therapy, and he should be able to understand the disease and follow a partnership program for the doctors. You know, when we were in medical student, the most horrible blow in my medical education, the teachers used to tell me, I was a bit confused. He said, you should maintain a difference with the patients. But on the contrary, I used to feel that if you maintain a difference with the patients, where the emotion will come. So balance is the key. You have to maintain the difference, a certain kind of social distance with the patient, but at the same time, you have to have some kind of emotional link with the patient, because if you don't have the right kind of balancing, that what we call the feel into the patient, what you call the empathy will not come, and unless and until empathy is there, you cannot turn out to be a good doctor, or in other words, a good human being. By far the most frequently used drug in medical practice is the drug himself. We all agree. It is not the drugs which are important, it is the doctor himself. A good smiling, happy, who is ready to help a patient is the most important medication. And I think we should all practice that. We should try to give our best as far as the patient is concerned, because patient is not merely a bunch of symptoms and signs. He is a human being. He has come for health. He is emotional. He is in pain. We should help him out. The famous physician and teacher, Sir William Osprey, we all know, he said he wanted doctor not only give him the best, but he should employ a sense of humor, cheer his patients when everything looked bleak and dark. Because you should not have a very serious look, because patient is already under stress. You should give that hope, the confidence, the humor, and cheering the patient is very important. But not to take the hope away from the patient. He has come for hope. The eternal hope which comes to all of us should be remembered. The hope is the most important. You have to inculcate a confidence and hope in the patient. Yes, if you follow the rules, if you are educated, if you stick to the treatment, shortly you will come out of the disease. The doctor-patient relationship is amongst the most unique and privileged relations. The only other relation to my mind which stands over is a mother and child. It's something like a bond. And it is also, you can say, it's like something like between a good teacher and a disciple. A patient to a doctor is once a dependent child, an eager student, a friend, a person needing advice, help, sympathy, understanding and hope. That reminds me a great saying by William Osler. He said, a doctor is not a person, or a teacher is not a person who is pumping knowledge at a high pressure to a passive receptacle. He is indeed a senior student anxious to help a student. That means you should not always be pumping knowledge that you know more and that person is listening. You should develop a bond, a friendship, some kind of equality so that he feels confidence. That confidence building exercise should be there. Then only this relationship can go a long way. While chatting with popular and meticulous general practitioners about his referrals to me, when I started my practice about more than a decade back, he remarked that he's found his patient very less than satisfied with my consultations. So I was quite upset. He said, I referred 2 patients to you, but they were not satisfied with me. I said that this set me thinking of an experience at the previous day. So, I just want to share why these patients, who's primary physicians are referred to me, why these patients were not satisfied. They reported back to the primary physician. He said, I went to Dr. Bose. No, he's not up to the mark. He could not satisfy me. Then I started nurturing myself where I got wrong. That evening I had 2 demanding patients, Miss A and Mr. B, in successive sessions. Reflecting on what happened, I realized that I had seen 2 difficult categories of patient. Miss A had been insisting that she did have a major physical disorder, denied any psychological stressors, and complained that she did not believe her illness could be due to psychological reasons. I tried to justify and tried to convince her on psychological factors and prescribe a sedative, and she left on a sour note. This was a lady, young lady, very articulative, well educated, but at the same time very fussy. There was a pain in her chest, and I was very confident, and I explained to her, look, this pain is not something significant. This may be psychological. We call it non-cardiac chest pain, NCCP. I tried to convince her and convince her, and for her mind relaxation I given a little sedative, but she was so upset because I did my justice to the patient, but she was very upset. On the contrary, Mr. B did not believe he had a problem, insisted his suffering was due to stress. He was unhappy on being told his problems needed a detailed sleep evaluation. He left suspecting me of conspiring with my general physician. The second patient, he had a serious problem. He was fat, he was choking in the night, he was snoring. I asked him to get a sleep test. I said it will cost you some money. We need a detailed evaluation. On the contrary, he doubted me. He thought probably I want to make money. I have a arrangement with my primary physicians. So in both the cases I lost the patients. In fact, if you see, in both the cases I tried to show my expertise, my confidence, my justice, but I lost the patient. So that means how you handle the patients are very important. So there are 2 things. Whenever we handle a situation, there are 2 things. One is a disease, another is an illness. What is disease? Disease is an objective physical finding, laboratory test and imaging. That means a person comes to you, suppose a patient is coming to me with breathlessness or some sleep disorder. He may be having some medical problems which is characterized by abnormal lab tests, abnormal imaging or x-rays, some history. That is a disease. But every disease has an illness component. What is an illness? It is a subjective sense of a disease, a sense of distress. Like for example, if the patient is very upset, he is depressed because whenever there is a disease, he will feel very low about his illness. He said he probably lose his job, he will have absenteeism. So every disease has a mind component. So mind component is the illness. So you have to see to it. Whenever you handle a disease, you should address both the illness component and as well as, because a significant part of a disease is the illness, and illness is a mind as a psychological component. So illness without disease is Miss A, and disease without illness is Mr. B. So Mr. B had a disease, but he didn't have an illness. But he was not convinced with my approach. And Miss A was an illness. She didn't have any problem, but without disease. But she was also not happy. Maybe Miss A wanted to know something more from me because she thought that she was referred from a primary physician to an expert. She thought probably this doctor doesn't know. So in both the case, though I was right in handling the patients, but we lost the patients. So art of a good patient-doctor relationship is that you have to see to it that patients are not lost. They adhere to the treatment. They follow a long-term partnership care. At its worst, patient dissatisfaction can be fatal to the treating physician. I must quote an example here. This was a case of a 50-year-old Dr. Vasant Vaman Jaikar, a cardiologist in Mumbai, who was shot dead in January in 2001 by disease patient dissatisfied relative bringing home the point. That means if you don't communicate to your patient well, if you don't handle the patient well, a patient can go to that extent of killing a doctor. So that means you see that patient-doctor communication has to be very smooth, very effective. Now what is this doctor-patient dialogue? I want to quote an example here in one of my hospital rounds. Doctor says to the patient who is admitted, doctor says, you're feeling better today. And the doctor saying, sitting on the edge of the bed. The patient says, yes, I'm surprised. What's better? I'm still not well. Doctor says, no. You look better. There's not much of flushing. In your professional opinion, you're better. Patient says, look, just I want to hear specifics. So what I want to insist here is that whenever you talk to a patient, don't talk superficial. Tell them exactly what has happened. Don't say you look better. They know nobody needs adulations or pampering. They want to know exactly what is happening. So they want to know the specifics, whether your BP is improving, whether your lab parameters are improving. Then I started saying your lymphocytes are better, you look better. But the patient says, how can you say I'm better? I'm weak, I'm not able to get up, and my weakness is so worse. So that means, you see, in the interaction with the doctor and patient, though you're trying to pampering the patient, you are trying to develop a confidence in the patient, but the patient is not happy. Why the patient is not happy? Because patient feels the doctor is not taking enough interest in the patient. He is not serious about the patient. He doesn't know much about my disease. So that confidence building is equally important. It is not only good talk which is important. So confidence, expertise, and the right approach is which is very important, which is very much lacking in this conversation. Now where is the tension? Can you hear the tension in this encounter? What are the doctor patients so often at odds? Why the patient and doctors always, they are like a tug of war? Why are both expressing more frustration and less satisfaction? Let's go on. Now why dissatisfaction? The introduction of technology has changed the image of the doctor. You know, patient whenever comes to the doctor, he said he will get so many tests done. Institution, in group practice, when you go to a big hospital, you know, patient is under the phobia. He said that I'm going to the institution. Doctor is involved in group practices. He's not giving them one-to-one. Commercialization of medicine. So, you know, there's a phobia in that. And change in our culture and the practice of medicine also added tension to the doctor patient. So now doctor doesn't give more time. He gets confused by a lot of fancy things which the doctors are using. And when the doctor is working in different institutions, he thinks that probably the doctor will exploit him. He's working in a group of doctors. And the managed healthcare. Managed healthcare means the most important is corporatization of the healthcare. It is creating a confusion in the mindset of the doctor-patient relationship. Sorry. We have become more doctor dependent because we see doctors sooner than people doing 50 years back. Today's world, you know, 50 years back, the doctors were less. But today, there are so many doctors. We have become more doctor dependent, but we are not able to develop the confidence in the doctors. Yes, we are less dependent on doctor for information and decision making. Though we are meeting doctors more frequently, but we are less dependent on doctors. That means somewhere between doctor and patient, that link is missing. To answer these questions, more and more researchers are putting the doctor-patient relation under a microscope, and the findings you see are very fascinating. Now what is the thing? It's like a tug of war. If you are wondering why so many office visits turn into a tug of war, patient is going to a doctor's repeatedly, but somehow the patient is not satisfied. To the doctor, illness is a disease process that can be measured, understood through laboratory test and clinical observation. To the patient, illness is a disrupted life. You know, whenever a patient goes to a doctor, he will all use jargon. We'll go this test, that test, lab test, but patient needs, you know, understanding of the disease. He needs compassion. He needs empathy. The doctors focus more time in keeping up with the rapid advances. He will say, this is happening in the world, you should get this test done, you should this technology. But patient is more interested, is being heard and understand. He wants a doctor should listen to his problems. Many doctors do not see the role of physician as a listener. They are not very good listeners. They don't give enough time. Doctors feel frustrated, even betrayed, when the patients withhold pertinent informations. Sometimes, yes, patients often use alternative because medications, like many times the patients are using homeopathy treatment, other alternative medicines, but they are scared of telling the doctors. So somewhere the scare factor is there, the confident factor is being, so it's like a tug of war. So doctors do more talking than listening. One biggest problem is that fault time is that doctors are talking more, listening less. A new study published in the Journal of American Medical Association found that 72% of doctors interrupted when the patient opening statement after an average of 23 seconds. Patients who are allowed to state their concerns without interruption used only an average of 6 seconds. That means if you can tolerate the discussion for another 6 seconds, there's like a winking of an eyes, the patient opens up, the catharsis starts, and you get the confidence of the patients. Most of the time we have found the doctors are very restless. They open up before the patient starts. So that listening power is very important. This is the most important fault line. The secondly is that doctors who cannot communicate well end up in the court. It has been found in 45 malpractices cases, most of the doctors were sued, delivered information poorly and devalued the patient's views. That means information dissemination should be correct. You should give the right kind of communication to the patients. Then another thing which is important, the doctor ignored the patient emotional health. A study of 21 doctors of an urban university-based clinic found when a patient dropped emotions clues or talked openly about emotion, the doctors seldom acknowledged their feelings. Instead, the conversation was directed back to the technical skill. Emotion. Many times what happens, the patient wants to discuss their emotional problem, the relationship problem, their psychological problem, but doctors ignore it. They always try to divert into a technological area. So that is another important missing link. Doctors underestimate the amount of informations. In one study it has been found 20-minute office, doctors spend only 1 minute per visit informing but believe that they are spending 9 minutes. They feel they are giving more information, but actually they are giving very less information. So information dissemination is poor, the communication is poor, doctors, they don't touch the emotional aspect of the patient. So overall there's a tug-of-war which is going on. Though in many situations you have difficult patients, in surveys say that 15% of patients are difficult patients. So one doctor's difficult patient may be another patient doctor, but still a doctor has to try, that is his profession, to conquer these patients, to handle those difficult patients. So we have to, a doctor's role is to pull everything in the same direction. There should not be any tug of war. And what is the most important thing, in spite of all these problems, there is a reason of hope. A doctor and patient will always be opposite ends of the healthcare system, but that does not mean they cannot pull in the same direction. The main job of the doctor should be to inculcate and hope, a confidence in the patient. What can doctors do? The first and foremost thing, a doctor should be a patient-centered partnership. That means it should be like a partnership care. It's like patient and doctor. Patient desires to be known as a human being. A patient never wants to know as a baggage of symptoms inside. They should be known as a human being, not merely to be recognized as an outer wrapping. It's for a disease. In videotape study, it has been found, 171 office visit, doctors who encourage patient to talk about psychological issues such as family and job had more satisfied patient, and visits were only an average of 2 minutes longer. By giving extra 2 minutes longer, and if you encourage patients to talk about the psychological issues like family and job, it has been found the results are better, the partnerships are better. Then of course check the posture of the body language. A fascinating study of time perception found that when doctors sat down during an office visit, patient always thought that visit was longer than when the doctors remained standing, even though the length of both the visit were exactly same. Many times what happens, doctors start examining the patient standing in position. So though maybe you are giving the same time, but the doctors feel that, the patient feels that he's not been looked after well. So always you respect the patient, invite the patient, bring the patient to the chamber, sit with the patient, talk to the patient. The sitting gesture, the gestures are very important. Other simple gestures as leaning forward, and showing the body languages, which is non-verbal, which is helpful because that relaxes the patient and improves the communication. Solicit the patient concerns and opinions through open-ended questions. What is been going on since we last? Like the questions should be very open-ended, not that very specific. Develop a kind of openness in the whole discussion. That really helps the patient to open up. To improve patient compliance, work on mutual trust. Research confirms the health of a doctor-patient relation is the best predictor of whether the patient will follow the doctor's instruction and advice. If the patient and doctor's relationship is very healthy, then the results also will be healthy. The partnership, the relationship, the communication skill, the confidence between the doctors will decide the result of the treatment. That's why you find some doctors, they give wonderful results, other doctors they're not able to get the similar kind of results because the patient don't get the similar kind of confidence. That's why they don't adhere to the therapy. So develop a system to communicate test results to patients. No news is good news. Patient often assume, but according to a survey published in Archives of Internal Medicine, 1 in 3 doctors do not always inform patient of their abnormal test result, especially if the results are mildly abnormal. About half the doctors surveyed thought it was important to inform the patient of normal results, but only 20% always did so. That means doctors, they never give the right informations. Even if it is mildly abnormal, even if it is some, you must tell the truth. Look, these are the problems. Though it is less, with the treatment and the regular follow-up, it should be better. Even if it is a normal report, a doctor should correctly speak out the normal reports. So right to information and the exact information will develop that good relationship between a doctor and patient. Patient perception matters. In today's world, everything is a perception. Patient should perceive that where I am going, whether it's a value for money, whether the doctor is giving the right kind of advice, whether I will come out of my problem or not. That perception is a very important thing. The research has shown that the way the patient perceives his connection with the patient significantly influences the sense of satisfaction. A patient should perceive that I have come to the right doctor. In fast-paced managed healthcare, the relationship building conversation can get lost in the presence to perform. The demands of keeping abreast of the latest medical treatment approach can overshadow the need to practice and improve communication skills. That means, the patient-doctor communication is lacking because the doctor is into so many things. The environment is so that he's always in a hurry. But a good, effective, empathetic physician-patient communication leads to improved patient compliance, better chance outcome, and reduction in doctors shopping and malpractices and litigations. If a doctor is very empathetic, he feels into the patient's shoes, he gives a better communication, he gives some time, optimally listens, be a good listener. It has been found the patient does not do a doctor shopping, and even the malpractices and litigations are less. So what are the communication strategies? So there are 5 stages of good illness behavior. Whenever the person goes through a disease, he goes through the 5 stages of psychological changes. The first thing is that symptom experience. Something is wrong. If some medical illness happens, what comes to my mind? Oh, symptom experience. That means something is wrong. Then comes assumption of the sick role. That means I am sick. I need a professional help. This is the second stage. Third, the contact of medical care settings. That means you need a professional help. Third is the dependent patient role stage, transferring control to the doctor and following the prescribed treatment. And the last is the recovery. So there is a chain sequence. That means you fall sick, it gets your mind, go for a medical, then you trust a doctor, then doctor takes care of it, and finally there is recovery. Now therapeutic strategies. So when a person goes through this different illness process, when he is going to hand over or transform or transplant your everything to your system, it's very important that we use the right kind of rapport or the therapeutic strategy. The first and foremost thing, whenever a patient comes to your doctor, a person should give his right body language, his attitude in developing a rapport. Good listening, that gives you a good therapeutic value. Make an inner picture of the patient's problems. Establishing therapeutic alliance, so that by giving a good inner picture of the patient problems, active listening and developing a rapport, you develop a good partnership to the patient problems, and that initiate compliance. Then only the patient will stick to the treatment. So how do you establish a rapport? Put the patient at ease, express interest, compassion, become ally, showing expertise. Always you should show that you know the problems, you are well read, you are updated. Unique problems specific to questions, mood, sleep, etc. Every problem should be addressed with a lot of expertise and develop an authority, as if the patient should feel that I have come to the right person, he knows the subject, and balancing the role of empathetic listeners, expert and authority. It should be a balancing of good empathy, expert and an authority. Then only the patient will develop that kind of rapport. Then giving an explanation. Patient have intense need for information and explanation about the cause of illness. Every patient wants information. Confusion and uncertainty about diagnosis gives noxious emotions. Give the right information. Giving a symptom complex name and explanation have a curative. Always try to give a name to the disease. Don't write that you take these medications. So defining a disease, give a right complex name, that really helps. Patient feel relief that the physician knows what's wrong. The confidence is there. He should feel that my doctor knows my disease and appropriate therapy can begin. Education. Information reduces anxiety, enhance feeling of personal control, improves patient attitude towards painful procedures, helps patient cope with the pain. So if you educate a patient before starting a treatment, it reduces anxiety, apprehension, gives a sense of well-being to the patient, and patient attitude towards a painful procedure. Even if you want to do a procedure on that, also reduces painful experience of the road, and patient can cope up well with the pain and other complications. In preoperative and educational interventions, it has been found if a doctor wants to do certain procedures or some operative, that if you explain the patient in well before time, that increases cooperation with the treatment, it improves the speed of recovery, it decreases post-operative pain and also post-hospital complications. Two groups before intra-abdominal surgery, it has been found. One group was given enough information about pain and specific breathing exercise, and second group of patients were not told about the post-operative. It has been found where the doctors are given right breathing exercise and explanation of the surgery and the medical diseases, the 50% requirement of drugs were less. So that means if you inform the patient about everything, give the right kind of techniques to overcome complications, even the consumption of post-operative drugs are less. Empathy. This is the most important. Empathy is derived from the Greek word em means into and pathos means feeling. It is a cognitive and emotional process of developing rapport through ability to intuit another person's feelings and attitude that includes reading movement, non-verbal cues. Empathy is the most important thing. Empathy is feeling with, and sympathy means feeling into. You should feel with the patient. Sympathy is a relationship or an affinity between a person in which whatever affects one correspondingly affects the other. The patient don't want sympathy. They want empathy. Empathy is feeling with. You feel as if you're the patient. You get into the shoes of the patient. And it's a cognitive, it's at the mind level, it's an emotional process. Unless and until a doctor develops the right kind of empathy with the patient, not sympathy. Just see, sympathy is feeling into. Empathy is feeling with. If Mr. A is coming to A, you have to behave as if you're A. You have to understand the process which he's going through. You have to feel into it, that from where he is coming from. Then only the relationship, the rapport will develop, the cognitive and emotional process will develop, and the patient will develop that confidence. Empathy in the context of healthcare. Empathy is a cognate attribute which involves understanding of inner experience and perspective of the patient as a separate individual. Combined with the capability to communicate is the understanding of the patient. Empathy does not imply feeling sorry for a patient. Many patients respond negatively to sympathy and being pitied. Don't feel pity for the patient. Empathy means you are helping the patients. There's an eagerness to help. You develop a rapport that shows an attitude. That means you're caring. You want to help him out. So positive role of empathy in doctors. Empathy leads to better outcomes, better compliance with empathy through a therapy, emphasizing the contribution of psychological factors in health and issues. Empathy scores were positively associated with ratings of clinical outcome. It has been found if empathy you create, if you feel with the patients, that means the better outcome, the psychosocial factors improve, and the results to the treatment are important. So if you want to have a good patient relationship, you should have the right kind of expertise, with authority and empathy. The balancing is very important. With the right kind of time and confidence, you can develop a long-term relationship. And the most important, that offers a hope. That means if hope is a central coping mechanism, if by giving all those things with the right gesture, with the right kind of empathy, with the right kind of expertise and communication, if hope is instilled into the patient, that is the most important coping mechanism. Hope defends against despair, it diminishes anxiety, it is energizing, it can stimulate patient to undertake health promoting activities. So that means you stimulate the patient. He will always change his lifestyle, he will listen to you, he feel very motivated. So encouraging emotional expressions. So once we have bred the hope into the patients through your empathetic activity, emotional expression, encourage ventilation of emotions, empathetic comments, inquiring about feelings. Patient will come out with his feelings, he will feel good about yourself, his negative thoughts will come out and the results will start showing positivity. And finally, touching. Holding a hand during moment of reassurance. Old as and most, the touch is very important. You have to maintain a social distance, but from infancy on, touch is associated with comfort and relief. The touch, a gentle touch. Some patients begin to talk if you touch the patients. So that is also a very important part of patient communications. So it's a mixture of everything what you do. It's a combined package. Your gestures, your smiley face, your knowledge, your expertise, your empathy, combined with the central hope building exercise, touch with your touching experience, that really develops a doctor-patient relationship. So emphasize on patient's active role. Patients are viewed as collaborators in the care. They are given information to discuss, diagnose and management decisions. Skill training to assist self-care activities like home blood pressure, glucose monitoring, prescribe physical activity, recommendation of specific literature of courses, etc. That means once you go through this process, the patient will do a lot of things. He will improve his physical activity. He will start monitoring his blood pressure, sugar monitoring, whichever is required. So whatever information, he will start practicing it. And you can recommend certain specific literature we can read. So that means you are allowing the patients to play an active role in his own life. So by doctor-patient relationship, you are endeavor so that a patient plays a positive role, an active role, a proactive role in his own life. As Charaka said, a physician must be fearless, merciful and tolerant. A good physician nurtures affection for his patients exactly like mother, father, brothers and kinds. Physician having such qualities gives life to the patient and cures the disease. So it's very important. A doctor-patient relation is very unique, like a mother and child and teacher and disciple. A combination of a right empathy, hope, expertise and knowledge, a combination, a total combo approach develops a long-term relationship, doctor-patient relationship. So be a good doctor and develop a good doctor-patient relationship and do good job to the community. Thank you.